Welcome to Pattern 45, the Belmont series. This is a smaller version which acts as a crossbody or the toiletry bag, the Belmont Compact, and the bigger version which is Luxe, that is a handbag size. You can carry by the top grab handle, which is a dual tone, as a crossbody, or use a back grab handle to convert it as a toiletry bag. I gifted mine to my brother, so I have nothing to show at the moment, but this was the prototype. We did some changes to the construction. The gusset was different, but now it becomes seamless as the outlook is more sleek. Despite the size, the compact is packed with storage. We will have front zipper pocket and the main zipper closure. On the inside, we will have 4 elastic pocket, 1 slip pocket, and a zipper pocket. I use this drape mesh. This is the latest for my shop. You can use a regular perforated mesh, or this is also another different mesh. This is a checkered mesh. For these two, it doesn't have a hole, whereas this is perforated. It can fit my water bottle, a great bag for a camera, and even fit my umbrella. For the flap zipper pocket, it acts as a security. My card holder is also placed inside here. And if you would like to use it as a toiletry bag, you will just sew an extra piece, which is the hook tab. It comes with an optional purse feet, side connector, if you are looking at to make this as a crossbody. This is finished by binding, which gives a great structure to the bag. For this video tutorial, I'll be sewing this Belmont Compact. There's another video tutorial done by Jen. She will be doing the Luxe version also. Unfortunately, due to time crunch, I'm not able to complete it. I hope to do it in the near future because my fabric is already cut out. And let's sew along. Let's go through the pattern overview. This can be found on page 4 of the pattern instruction. We will have piece A. This is a flat exterior. A1 and A3 is a opposite mirror image because when we flip it up, the rounded corners will be at the top. And this is mentioned in the pattern pieces and the instruction. So for piece A1 lining, A3, this is the mesh fabric. This is the latest edition I brought to my shop. As you can see, it doesn't have the hole that usually we have for the mesh fabric. I would say the weight is a medium weight between the soft, normal mesh fabric with those holes and also stiff mesh. It doesn't have any stretch, soft to touch also. And yep, this is my latest product in my shop. Okay, and A and piece A2, flap stabilizer. A4, which is the hook tab. This is optional. If you're doing the toiletry bag, it is recommended for you to use so that you can hang it. And you can have a different option, either the rotating hook. Yes, I tested this for, I think 5 days now, and it's still hanging very well. 6 kg of load. It's also available in my shop, either a D-ring or a silver clasp. This is optional. If you're making a crossbody, you do not need the piece A4. And of course, we will need the ZA3 zipper plus 1 pull, 2 pieces of A5, which is the grab handle. We will make it as an accent piece. I do not recommend you to skip this because it really elevates the Belmont bag as a crossbody. And of course, ZA zipper with 2 pulls. But we will not insert the pulls now, only later part because we will need to separate the zipper pull. So this is for the front panel. We will continue for piece B. Now we will look at the other part of the front panel, which consists of piece B and C. Piece B, exterior. Piece B1, that is the lining. B2, the stabilizer. For stabilizer, I'm using all the Sewfisticated foam from my shop, Heavy 2.0. And this is piece B3, 2 pieces for the front panel slip pocket. Piece C, that is a zipper pocket exterior. C1, 1 piece, and C2, 1 piece. That is a zipper pocket lining. I'll be demonstrating how you cut your zipper box here, so I didn't cut this. So for your C1, you should be the same. For piece C1, you should have the same cutout box, which I will demonstrate in a while. And if you have label tag, you take it out, logo tag along with the piece of stabilizer. Let's move to the back panel. And for the back panel, we will need piece D, that is a back panel exterior, D1 lining, D2 stabilizer, D3 divider pocket, that is the mesh fabric. Again, I'm using the new supply that I just received. It's also a mesh fabric. It's just as softer than the stiff fabric. It's like in between. And good thing is it's non-stretchable, as well as a fold-over elastic. For this pattern, you definitely need a fold-over elastic so that it creates the tension on the pockets. And let's move to the base and the side gusset. Lastly, we are looking at the base and side panel to form the side gusset. And we will need one piece of piece E, base exterior, E1 lining, E2 stabilizer. And if you intend to do a purse fit for, especially if you are doing as a crossbody, you will need 4 pieces. 2 pieces of piece F, that is a side panel exterior. F1, that is the lining. And because we are going to use this as a side connector together with the D-ring, we want to reinforce the area. Okay, so we need 2 pieces of scrap stabilizer. If you're using it as a toiletry bag, this is optional. And piece F3 side pocket, I'm using the same mesh, and you need 2 pieces of fold-over elastic, as well as the bias tape. And not forgetting, we will need this one whole piece. This is piece F4, that is a side gusset stabilizer. All the supplies are from my shop, Sewfisticated Supplies. We offer flat rate or free shipping if you hit a minimum. And the exterior that I'm using is the quilted diamond, that is the faux leather, and also this vibrant blue hexagon. As you can see a hexagon design on the wrong side and the right side. Okay, and that's about it. Let's go through how do you cut the front panel zipper pocket. Okay, for the front panel zipper pocket and the back panel, you all share the same pattern piece. However, if you notice, there will be a zipper box here. Okay, and this is where we will cut out the zipper box. I do not recommend you to cut this unless you want to print 2 pieces, then go ahead. Otherwise, what I did is same as the stabilizer. I punch a hole here. Okay, same thing. I punch a hole over the zipper box. I place it over so that I can cut it out. For me, it will be easier this way. There's a video that I demonstrated how do you cut your stabilizer. And from here, I will connect the marking. And just to make sure that I cut correctly, my measurement is a little bit off. Okay, so then I will cut it away. This is how I do for my any zipper box. If this is confusing for you, go ahead and print out 2 pieces so that you can cut one with the zipper box intact and one is without the zipper box. So for the front pocket, you will have this exterior and one lining which is the same and one more without the zipper box being cut out. So it will be piece C, C1, and C2. Depending on the purpose of this Belmont Compact, if you're using for this as a toiletry bag, you can have very minimum stabilizer. I mean, it really depends on whether you like structure or not. But I would suggest to have at least a minimum lightweight stabilizer so that it's easier for you to hold the Belmont Compact. In today's video tutorial, I'm doing this Belmont Compact as a crossbody. So, and I'm using this self-adhesive foam also from my shop. Okay, this is a heavy 2.0. So I'm going to prepare the stabilizer first so that it's easier for me to go on later. And also, if you are using fusible stabilizer, it is better for you to let the glue cure first. Only these 4 pieces we will need to adhere first, okay? And the rest, like front panel and also the side gusset stabilizer, this will be later part because we need to sew a few pieces in order to form the side gusset and the front panel. So for this flap stabilizer piece A2, as we will sew the top, so we make sure that you leave more allowance at the top here, okay? And this is also important, especially we are going to sew the grab handle later. You will need some stability. Okay, so you put this aside, and this is the back panel. Piece E exterior and the E2 stabilizer. Likewise, we go with. Okay, and last but not least, this is the piece F exterior. You need to mark, which is also in the pattern pieces and instruction for you to put on the stabilizer so that this will reinforce your side connector. We also webbing over later. So you want some stability, especially when over time, this area could be wear and tear. This is also one of the self-adhesive foam. I didn't bring into the shop yet, but I like to use this as a support, such as my logo tag stabilizer and side connector stabilizer. Okay, so we are prepped on this already. You can skip this if you are not making any purse feet. Okay, you will need 4 pieces of purse feet. Yours can be either a chrome side, like your logo tag, or for me is a Chicago screw. You need a permanent glue so that to secure the screw to the purse feet, and as well as the small screwdriver, fabric glue, double-sided tape, because we are going to adhere this to the exterior, and I'm using a sew-in stabilizer. This is an ultra firm from my shop. Okay, first we are going to transfer. I think my cutting is not really that good. Let's see first. We're going to transfer the purse feet measurement, which is also given here. Okay, and from here we are going to make sure it stays while we will put the stabilizer over. Okay, for me, I just use this double-sided tape to secure. Okay, so from here, I'm going to punch hole so that I can put my disc with purse fit in. If you are using your leather punch, make sure that it's at the smallest hole. You don't want to use the biggest, which is 4.5 to punch your purse fit hole. Okay, once we are done, what I'm going to do is going to put the Chicago screw into the hole. Okay, and I'm going to use to dab the glue over the cap and just tighten the whole thing. Okay, then use your cross screwdriver to tighten it. And you let it sit for a while. So far, I use this permanent fabric adhesive and it works. It doesn't come off for all my purse feet. For double protection, I always put either you can put a Pinterest tape, or for me, I'm using this double-sided tape. It's pretty strong. It just to cover so that it doesn't accidentally stretch your lining. And we are done with your base, purse feet, and the stabilizer. We can put this aside first. You can skip this session if you're not putting any logo tag. I already marked where I want it, and I'm going to put this scrap of stabilizer over it. Make sure I cover the whole thing. This is to prevent any accidental pull of the logo tag so that it doesn't come off easily. Just want to make sure I center the whole thing. Okay, looks okay. I'm going to use the seam ripper to carefully cut 2 small slits. Just wide enough for you to insert the prongs. You don't want to be too much. And if your fabric does fray, okay, make sure you actually apply a fray stop. So I already insert the logo tag and make sure that you are happy with the position. And I'm going to press out the prongs. That's my way of doing. Some people close it inside. There is no right or wrong, but personally I feel that this is more secure. And I'm just going to trim off, make sure I almost trim off the excess stabilizer. I also like to round it up so that it doesn't have a sharp corner. Okay, and we are going to apply the Pinterest tape over. Okay, the reason why I like to trim off, because sometimes depending on the fabric that you use, sometimes the stabilizer is visible from the exterior. Okay, so I try to just keep the minimum. Now we are done with all the preparation work. Before we start sewing, I strongly recommend you to mark your center point. And let's start sewing. We will do the adjustable strap first. The pattern instruction is on the last step, which is step 30. But since we are already in the preparation work, let's do the adjustable strap first. I'm using this 1-inch handcrafted webbing, which is from my shop. And ensure that your hardware and the webbing are the same width. You need your leather puncher if you are using rivet. Rivet are optional. Otherwise, you can solder ends together, fabric marker, ruler, and clips, as well as your table press. First, we will take one end of the webbing, thread it over to the slider. If you are sewing, you can go to the sewing machine and top stitch with the 1/8 inch. But you got to fold your webbing to hide the raw edges. So you can go to the sewing machine now and top stitch it. However, I'm using the rivet, so I'm not going to do that. Ensure that you have enough space for you to put your rivet in. And use a clip to secure. I'm going to fold in a little bit more. Okay. As you can see, it's pretty thick. I like to stop my rivet about 9mm post length, because if it's too thin a fabric, I can always use a scrap or stabilizer to handle the gap. But you don't want it to be too short also, because most of our rivet size we are looking at is about 8 to 9. Okay, and I'm just going to mark it Okay, I actually use a fabric marker to place the mark, and I'm going to punch the hole. Remember to use the smallest hole. So from here, I'm going to secure it one side, and I'm going to repeat on the other side. Take the other end, we slide in the hook. Make sure it's not twisted, and we are going to slide it over the middle bar. Okay. You secure this end already, and the remaining hook we are going to do the same like what we did to the slider. Secure the end by double fold. If you are sewing, you can go to the sewing machine and top stitch with a 1/8. You can even do 2 rows of stitches. So for now, I'm just going to mark it about 3/4 inch because this is a 1-inch webbing. And your adjustable webbing is now done. We'll go to the next step. I have gone ahead and placed the double-sided tape on the 2 strips of bias tape and proceed to cut to separate the piece A3 mesh pocket into 2 pieces. Measurement is given in the pattern instruction. Basically, you cut 1¼ inch from the rounded corner. And if you do have a label tag, you can bring it up also. So what we do is we will cover the raw edges of the mesh fabric at the back and at the front. Okay, so we will remove the double-sided tape, and we will place this in the center. Make sure that it aligns well. Basically, you want to cover to make sure your front cover the back. And if you have a label tag, you want to position it at least about 1 inch away from the sharp edge. Okay, we will proceed to do the top part. I hope you can see from this angle. I changed a little bit, and yeah, I hope it's working. Okay, so we will put the top here, and this is the bottom, and this is the top. And from here, we will take out your ZA3 zipper. Again, I already put the double-sided tape. If you are not comfortable inserting the pull after we sew together, it is better for you to do so now, just in case that you are not comfortable. Okay, again, we will remove the double-sided tape and we will place it here in the center. Sorry, not center, it's about 1/4 inch away from the middle of the zipper tip. Some zipper pull you will have a clear marking here. Okay, but for this mine it doesn't have, but I borrow it and it's about 1/4 inch away from the middle of the zipper pull. Okay, we will proceed to do the same on the other side. Make sure it's well balanced. Okay, your long edge is also aligned, everything is well, and we'll go ahead and top stitch 2 rows of the 1/8 inch along the bias stick on both sides. Okay, basically one is secure the top and at the bottom for the zipper. Make sure you back stitch when you finish and start. And from here, we are going to insert the zipper pull. It depends on you because I like to carry my bag over my right shoulder, and I tend to like to pull because this will be facing like this for you. Because this is the flap. Let me get the bag. Okay, so this is the flap and this is this part. So I like to open from left to right. Likewise, if you like to carry your bag on the left side, so you like naturally your hand will like to open from right to left. Hope that makes sense. So I'm going to have the zipper opening from the right side. Yeah, then I will, sorry, for a moment I was confused. Okay, I'm going to insert here. Okay, so a little bit excess of zipper help you to align it better. And sometimes it doesn't help. What you do is you can cut a notch on the zipper tape so that it's easier for you to install. Okay, I still don't trim off first because I need to attach this to the lining. This is a lining from my shop. It's a waterproof canvas. It's lightweight, slightly heavier than a normal vibrant wool, but because this one got a hexagon design, this is the right side, so I'm going to align both right side together. Okay, and we'll go ahead and base the parameter. Okay, when basting, I like to increase my stitch length, and I always like to base the mesh fabric facing down so that it doesn't shift. Okay, so go ahead and trim off the excess fabric and the zipper tape. Okay, and we will put this aside first. This is optional for crossbody style. So if you are not using it as a toiletry bag, you can skip this step, but I'm going to demonstrate also. Okay, this we will do facing a wrong side up, and we will press the center point, center line, and we will press the two long edges to meet the center line. And we are going to top stitch along the parameter with a 1/8 inch. This is similar to how you usually do a D-ring tag. Okay, I'm not going to clip it. Okay, so what I do is I made it on the center mark. So we'll top stitch the whole parameter. You can skip the bottom because we are going to baste it. Later you won't be able to see it anyway. So you can use a D-ring, swivel clamps, or this is the 360 rotating hook, and we are going to slide it over. This is 1 inch. So a lot of toiletry bag, if you can see in the commercial market, they like to use this because it's really convenient. You hook onto a surface. Okay, but if you're using the D-ring or the silver clamps, then you will have to make sure there is some certain hook for you to hook over. So from here, we are going to just baste the two ends together. And from here, if you are going to do it, okay, we will put this later, but not now. But this is for the purpose of the flap. So for now, we are going to put everything away while we do the divider pockets. For the divider pockets, you will need the fold over elastic because we need the tension for the pockets. So normal bias tape would not be advisable to use this, okay? And already place the marking. Basically, you need to make 3 markings, one center point and one left to right. Okay, and the measurement is given in the pattern instruction on step number 4. If you are not comfortable in holding it, what you do is you will place the center mark, which is the blue marking that I placed now, to the center point. And you can clip it. But for me, personally, I find clipping it is more challenging because the fold over elastic tend to bounce back. So what I do is, I will start from the beginning, I will tack it, and I will place my beginning of the mesh fabric to the point that I wanted to. Then from here, I will hold it and flatten the whole thing while sewing. So making sure that the midpoint matches the midpoint of the fold over elastic. Okay, so let's get started and I'll show you how is it. I will change my footer because this sometimes tend to drag the fold over elastic. So I just use my normal Teflon footer, which is flat. Okay, as mentioned, I'm going to tack the stitch first. My starting point is the blue line, and reduce your stitch length also. Okay, so once I at the starting point, I'm going to place my mesh fabric over. Okay, make sure that you encase both sides. Then from here, I'm going to make sure that I reverse stitch at the starting point. Okay, and I know my midpoint is here and my midpoint of the fold over elastic is also there. So I'm going to match it. I need to pull a little bit. And I need to make sure I pull the fold over elastic. Otherwise, it's not flat. For example, you see this, it will bounce back. So I'm going to put a little bit pressure on the fold over elastic while making sure that it still match. Okay, and just so. Okay, once at the center point, I'm going to stop also. This is my ending point, the blue mark. I'm going to pull also over. You see, it tends to bounce back. Okay, and I will sew. And there you have it, your elastic mesh pocket. It will create a tension, you see. Take out your back panel lining, which is a piece D1. Find out the right side. I believe this is right side. Yeah, you can see there is a water droplet. Okay, and we will mark the center point for both sides. I already have my marking on this, so I'm going to mark these two. And mark your two sides together, align the two sides together. We're going to secure the two sides first, we baste it. Then thereafter, we are going to sew 2 rows of stitches here in the center line. Okay, we will start from the bottom up to the bias tape, fold over elastic, then we will come down with a 1/8 inch. Okay, If you're not sure, you can use the painter's tape, but I'm just going to eyeball it because my center line is there and my center line is there also. So I'm going to sew 2 rows of stitches. Okay, as you can see, 2 rows of stitches. Next, we are going to create a pleat. Okay, there is no hard and fast rule how much you should put each side, but I will normally try to do equally. And when you do, you will fold your pleat outwards, okay, away from each other. Seems like I have more over here, but it's all right. You won't really notice it. Okay, so we are going to baste the bottom edge. And you're done with this divider pocket. We will repeat the same also for the F3 mesh fabric and the fold over elastic. You should have 2 pieces of each. Again, I already marked the center point and the necessary placement. This is on page 10, step number 6. So I'll match the center point again. But because it is shorter, I'm not going to match it. So I will straight away go and tack it. Okay. I shorten my stitch length also. And I'm just going to place it under. Okay, match the center point. And here to the finish line. And I will take out the piece F1. Mark the center point for top and bottom. Remember the bottom edge, sorry, the straight edge should be the bottom edge. Because we were sewing the Packmate earlier and the Packmate is rounded for all corners. I went to sew the bottom on the earlier stage during my photo steps. So this is something that if you are sewing Packmate, you might find a little bit confusing initially because it's opposite. It's not opposite because this one is straight at the bottom, whereas Packmate is rounded for all corners. So do bear in mind which one is on top and bottom. If you tend to forget, what you can do is over here you can put here T on the wrong side. Okay, because this pleat is very minimum, so what you can do is can straight away go and fold it and you can tack it all around. Otherwise, you can follow the same as what we did earlier. We'll baste the 2 sides first, then we'll follow at the bottom. Do whichever way that you feel you are more comfortable with. You can always adjust here again. Okay, like I say, there's no right or wrong. My center point here is being lined up. So I will focus here first. Always focus about this. I think here is about 3 inch. So that you're not overwhelmed. Okay, so when here I'm going to adjust it slightly at the back. But this mesh fabric is slightly thicker than the usual mesh. Okay, so from here to the side. And you're done with your side panel lining with mesh pocket. Okay, we are going to put this aside. while we continue finishing the remaining piece. Now you have your two pockets already done for the side panel lining. You put this aside and we will proceed to do the slip pocket. For the slip pocket, if you do have a label tag you want to put, it is a good place for you to actually put your label. Again, identify which one is the wrong side, which one is the right side. This is the right side for me. Okay. And we are going to place this right side together. We're going to clip the top only. And I'm going to put this label tag just about 1 inch away. There's no right or wrong, but you don't want to be too near also. Okay, and we are going to sew with a 1/4 inch on the top edge. Okay, before I do so, you trim your corners, flatten it out. If you have not tried a waterproof canvas like from my shop, I highly recommend you to do so because it actually removes all the need for stick or interfacing, and it is lightweight. It's not heavyweight. Okay, and domestic machine you can use it, and I love it that it's waterproof. All my bags, where I can help it, I will make sure it's waterproof. Okay, because I didn't start from a fresh bobbin, so I didn't have enough to last till this stage. Otherwise you should have more than enough. So I'm going to top stitch the top here only. We are done with your divider pocket. We'll keep this aside, and next we are going to do your front panel assembly. We are on grab handle now, and I'm using the 2 pieces of exterior vinyl, which I strongly suggest you to use this instead of webbing because it really elevates the whole look. Okay, and if you can see, this is a accent piece, so we are going to have a different measurement on the grab handle. Okay, I'm going to put the black exterior as the top, and this one is the accent. So for the piece that is going to be on top, we are going to mark the center point, apply your double-sided tape, and we're going to meet the long edges to the center line. That is for the top part. Okay, this is the top part, which is basically half of what the original size is. And for this, on the bottom part, which is the accent, we are going to mark a 3/4 inch away from the long edges. Okay, once I'm done, I'm going to put the double-sided tape in the center here. Or I can do both, but because I'm going to put the rivets, so I don't want to extend it across it. Especially if your sewing machine is particular with double-sided tape. Okay, and we'll take this out and place it on top to create the accent piece. Okay, this is how it looks. And this is how it will look over here. You can do either side, but I think I will do black for this. Let's try. Because my this side I did same color with the black. So yeah. Let's have a different look. I've gone ahead and marked a 1 3/4 inch from the short edge, which is 4.5 cm. And we are going to top stitch we are going to top stitch the long edges only, the top and the bottom, with a 1/8 inch from the top of the grab handle, not from the bottom, from the top here. And for this, I prefer not to back stitch so that I can pull the thread behind and hide the stitches, which will look much better. Okay. And if your fabric tends to stretch, top stitch in the same direction, which later I will show you. And stop at the placement. Okay, so this is where you top stitch at the top of the grab handle. And if your fabric tends to stretch, you will top stitch here instead of the direction that we top stitched earlier. It was a little bit off here. It's a bit hard to see when you sew in that direction. But it's alright, it's going to be bent, so not much of the difference. I hope so. So from here, we are going to pull the thread over. And we will proceed to take out your piece A with the stabilizer. Okay, make sure you already adhere the stabilizer and the midpoint of the grab handle to the placement marking. This placement can be found from your pattern piece A or pattern instruction. Okay, we'll place it on the center. You can place a double-sided tape, but I don't think it's really necessary. Just make sure that it is level. What you can do is you place a ruler over so that it is correct. You can sew either with a box stitch or a X box. So for me, I'm going to put a rivet there, and because my quilting already, I'm not going to do a X box. But if you want to know how to do the X box, later I will be demonstrating on the side panel, sewing the webbing to the side panel. So for now, I'm going to just sew you try to start as much as you can over the same rows of stitches. Okay, so because there will be uneven layers, so hum jumper is a good way for you to level up the fabric so that you will not have skip stitches. So I'm going to stop at where my stitches end. Okay, so and I'm going to sew it across and over. Okay, I'm going to repeat the same thing. Because this bag is rather small since it's compact, so I really don't think you need to do a X box, but put a rivet, it will look so much better. Like for this, same thing, I'm going to repeat the same here. For grab handle to the back panel, especially if you're doing the toiletry bag, the top. If you want to do a X box, I forgot to mention earlier, what you can do is you're going to sew from when you reach until the end, you're going to sew and you will go over here to this corner, over here again and back to where you start. A ruler will help you to able to get the stitches straight. But for now, I'm not going to do it, so I will just ignore. I will just secure it. Okay, this is how it looks. There's something here. It's okay. I couldn't see well just now earlier. So, okay, if you are going to use a rivet, please proceed to do so now. And I like to have a 1/3/8 inch away from here. I'm going to ball mark it, and I'm going just to put it here, and likewise here. Okay, if you will need a rivet, you must do so now before we sew together with the lining. Again, use the smallest hole to punch a rivet. Okay, I'm going to put my rivet in. I'll be offering some of the hardware to my shop, but because this is a testing round that it's my new supplier, so yeah, just to make sure. But I've been using them for for some supply already, and so far so good. Okay, I'm going to off screen to secure the rivet. I'll see you in a bit. Your rivet is now done. Okay, and I'm going to take the flat lining with the mesh pocket that we did earlier. So we are going to place it wrong side together. And we're going to base the parameter with a 1/8 inch. Again, I like to sew with my lining facing up. Okay, we are done this, and we are going to take out your ZA zipper. If you're making this as for your this toiletry bag, make sure you take out your this hook and you place it at the center point of the rounded edge. Okay, so you basically base it here. So when you use it as a toiletry bag, you can actually hook it and hang it. But for this make, I'm not going to do that because I'm using this as a crossbody. And for the ZA zipper, mark the center point. The measurement given is already more than what is needed for you to be able to put in your zipper pull later after we assemble the flap and the front panel. Okay, so we will need to separate this. And we are going to mark the center point to the rounded corner, rounded edge here. And we will match the center point of the ZA zipper to the center point of the flap with the rounded corners. Okay, and you use your clip to secure. Some of you might ask me, why don't I do a buffing method for the flap? Reason being because of the handle. Okay, it's going to be bulky. Imagine you going to do it. Of course, I can do a different way of handle whereby we don't need to be inside the seam. But because since the pack is already been bound, as in the overall is been will be binding method, so that's where I decided to, okay, let's go for all binding. And if you're going to use this as a clear vinyl, it's going to be challenging to top stitch it, buff it and top stitch it. That is my view, but of course you can go ahead and do your buffing method if you prefer that, especially if you don't use the handle. Now we're going to base a ZA zipper to the flap with a 1/8 inch. Remember to back stitch at the front, at the beginning and the end. Thermostat is useful for you to maneuver things around the tight corners. I always use so for my zipper and my binding. Okay, this is how it works for here. So when you flap, you will open the mesh pocket. And we will go ahead and do the binding. So we will take out your bias tape to cover the raw edges. And if this is, I'm using about 7.8 inch, it's more to 2.3 cm. If you are using a 1 inch bias tape, please take note, try not to sew your bias tape more to the zipper side. Okay, what you do is you actually cover more. This one is a 7/8. Like for this, this is a 1 inch. If I divide equally into half, okay, it's going to be covering a lot more towards the zipper. And what happened is sometimes the zipper pull will get stuck on the bias tape. So I would suggest to people that who use an 1 inch, what you do is you cover more towards the lining side. Okay, so now I'm going to sew the whole zipper with the bias tape by a 1/4 inch. And I don't like to clip as I sew. I just feel that it's easier for me to maneuver when I arrange while sewing. Yeah, when I adjust the binding tape while sewing, I often get the best result. Remember to backstitch at the start and the end. Okay, so what I like to do, if you have seen my past video tutorial, I like to focus only here, okay, and forward. So I will use my middle finger or my index finger to just make sure that it's snug. And my flat screwdriver to make sure everything is good. It works the same way if you are using 4/over elastic, but this 4/over elastic, I find it's not suitable to use this as a binding tape. I need to find more resources. Okay, let's see, where is my hem jumper? I can't find it. Okay, when at the side of the corner, if you have difficulty on the curve, what you do is you can reduce your stitch length to get the curve to sit nicer. One stitch at a time. Just make sure that the bottom also, you also cover the bottom. Always double check as you sew along. And if you are very critical about your stitching and you are new to binding, try to use the same thread color as your bias tip. While you start practicing until you are much comfortable with it, then you can use the contrasting stitches. Then I'll start with it now. And remember, if you are sewing the Belmont Compact as a toiletry bag, your this A4, which is a hook tag, should already be sewn on. Okay, so we are done with this. We will put this aside first while we will proceed to the front panel. On the zipper pocket lining C1, where we have the zipper box like what we cut just now earlier, we are going to mark a 3/8 inch away from the zipper cut box. Okay, 1/8 inch. So we are going to place the zipper right side up. The lining is also right side up. So what happened is we are going to, before I forget, if you are for me, I like to carry on my back on the right shoulder, so I like to naturally open from right to left. Okay, so in order for this to happen, I need to place the opposite direction. So this zipper is going to close towards the left. So once I turn it up later, it is going to be close to the right. It is also mentioned in the pattern instruction. So I'm going to center this zipper. And we are going to sew with a 1/4 inch. Starting and ending at the 3/8 inch mark that we marked earlier. Okay, so and we'll take our exterior right side together. I like to go to the same stitch, that means same side, the lining side, and sew over the stitches. Same as earlier, is also a 1/4 inch. Start and stop at a 3/8 inch. And from here, we are going to snip into the exterior and the lining only. We would not snip into the zipper. If you do snip, no problem. I have bags that I made before like this, and so far it's all right. But if you do snip it accidentally, you can always use a lighter to cinch the corners. Okay, and we are going to flatten the whole thing and turn it right side out. Okay, once it's like this, you can see the zipper is outside, and we need to push the two corners out, exterior and the lining. Make sure they match together. If it's slightly below the zipper tip, it is alright, because later we are going to sew the front panel exterior together and it will hide. See, now the zipper is closing towards the right, but I just mess up here. You will see an overhang here, which is the 3/8 inch earlier we did. So we are going to sew a 3/8 inch here on both sides, then we will turn it up. So this is what it will look later. Okay, so now we are going to sew the two corners, a 3/8 inch. So I don't have a slim footer without this, and sometimes this Teflon footer is too big, too wide. I need to get a proper slim footer. Okay, so we sew with a 3/8 inch. And make sure you don't sew into the fabric. I will be showing you now. Make sure you don't sew over here. Okay, so you make sure you end at the diagonal cuts. This is how it should be. But before that, we will trim away the zipper tape. Let's do it on the other side first. Okay, for this side, I like to start at the bottom. Don't worry if you don't get exactly the 3/8 inch, as long as you line it up at the end. See, I think I did a very bad job here. The whole zipper is full. Yep, I'm going to redo this part. My machine tends to nest the thread even when I pull. Okay, so make sure you are happy with the zipper box first before we trim off the zipper and top stitch. So we will trim off the same as this little wing. Okay, and we are going to match the corners, the two sides. I need to change again because sometimes it does drag the faux leather. You know, what do you call this again? The guide with the hinge. Okay, I'm going to top stitch the top and the zipper box with a 1/8 inch. Make sure my knees better. Okay, check that you're happy with it. Looks good here. And we are going to take your C2 lining, whereby it's a full piece without the zipper cutout, zipper box cutout. This is Sewfisticated Twill. Again, it's a waterproof. So I'm going to place it right side up and this right side up. Okay. So with both right side up, we are going to base the parameter with a 1/8 inch. Okay, then we will base the parameter with a 1/8 inch. Again, I like to do so with the lining facing up. That's how my machine loves it. Okay, once you're happy with this, we will take up our piece B, front panel exterior, okay, and we are going to place it right side together, okay, at the zipper tape and basically the straight edges. And we are going to sew with a 1/4 inch. Okay, check that you're happy with it. And we are going to snip the corners. Before you top stitch it, you just want to double check one thing, that your this is the same as your piece B1 lining. Okay. Yeah, it looks good. If it's not, you have to go back and check your seam allowance. Again, I need to change my zipper for, oh no, so sorry. This video, I don't know how many times will I be changing. Okay, so we are going to top stitch it with the seam allowance facing towards the upwards, which is the panel B, yes. Okay, we are done with the front exterior zipper pocket. This is how it will be. Okay. And next we will take our B1 lining and the B3 slip pocket that we did earlier. And not forgetting, the most important thing is also your stabilizer. So before we go through this, I want to make sure that I place my stabilizer here already. That's the reason why I do not recommend fusible stabilizer, because we have hardware here. So it's going to be tough for you to go and iron any stabilizer that need to be fused. So either sewing stabilizer or self-adhesive. Okay. This self-adhesive, do bear in mind, because when you paste on the lining here, sometimes you will have this kind of creases here. If you're particular, I suggest you use a sewing stabilizer. So what I do normally, I will put my hand in and flatten to minimize the crease. And we'll put this one aside. We can put these three together, or if you intend to create a divider pocket for this slip pocket, what we'll do is we will sew this to the lining, piece B1 lining first, so that we can sew the divider pocket. I will not be doing so because since I have a divider pocket for this already, I'm just going to do a slip pocket that is, because the bag is not as big. Let me show you the interior here. Okay, it's not really that big, so this is my handphone. So if I'm going to put it in, there is not much of a gap left. Okay, so the decision is yours. So if you want to do a divider pocket, you will sew the same thing as what we did earlier, 2 rows of stitches. Since I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to place this right side up, B1 lining right side up. I just double check again. No, this one is right side up. Sometimes under the lightings, especially certain colors, are not that obvious. Let me double check. Yeah, this one, you can see it leaves watermarks. Okay, so I'm going to put it right side up together. as well as the exterior. So I'll base them all together. This right side up, wrong side up. So when you flip it over, this is the slip pocket. So we clip everything together. Bear in mind that this is where the thickest bulb will be. If you suspect your machine might not be able to take the bulb, because what happens is we are going to layer up together with a base and a base lining. So basically one exterior, another one exterior, one lining. And this is already, there is certain thickness. My machine has no problem. If you suspect yours might have, so what you can do is you can replace this with a mesh fabric, or leave out the slip pocket totally. Please do a bulb test first. If you suspect that your machine might not be able to handle, because material matters too. This vibrant blue hexagon is probably the thickest among all my fabric. It's about 0.4 millimeters, and I suspect I cut this exterior using a wrong template, but I think I can still hide it. This is probably my prototype template. Yeah, I think I can hide it. I'm not going to change. Don't think it's a big issue. So I'm going to base the whole thing with a 1/8 inch. Okay, this is your front panel. Okay, so from here, we'll place the center point here and going to sew with a 1/4 inch, like what we did earlier. If you're comfortable in sewing zipper, you can try this way also, because sometimes when you try to deal with the clips, you have too much to handle. I mean, for me previously. So what I like to do is, I know I really have the right zipper length, so I'm going to just maybe have a 3/4 inch excess on one side for the zipper, and I'm just going to just sew like this without clipping. Let's try. Maybe you can give yourself a try as well, so that you don't need to deal with the clips, everything, and make sure everything lined up, because as you sew with this, it lines up better, in my opinion. Try it and let me know. Okay, so from here I just match it up, the zipper edge and the exterior. Again, when I come to the corner, I will just go slow and will just at the same time just adjust it. Okay, you can adjust your stitch length also if you need to. Always baste it first, so that to prevent you having any wavy zipper. Sometimes you have a wavy zipper because you never baste the zipper first. That resulted that uneven zipper. Okay, check it out. Everything is fine. To the corner, we will try to straighten the exterior. Now make sure there is no puckles. Oops, I mess up. I mess up here. Okay, but before I go and take it out and redo, okay, we just want to make sure that it fits well. So what you do is you take your zipper pull, just to make sure it's not going to be nicely, to be sitting nicely, but you just want to make sure that it is good. So what I do is I'll just match it up. Okay, my side here is about flat. Not too bad. I just need to sew up this. Remember, we haven't bind it yet. Okay, so after binding, it should be all right. So I'm going to take that out. But it's looking good so far. Okay. Yeah, I'm obsessed with quarter diamond, the plain and bold zipper for a change. Okay, so I'm going to unstitch this. Let's see whether do I need to do all the way. I suspect so. Let's hope this will be just lining up together without fixing around. So my fix this. Okay. Next, we are going to do our binding, and make sure you have enough bobbin thread, which I do. Okay, let's get started. Same as earlier, I'm going to just clip it on the first part, and I'm going to align as I sew. Make sure you have enough bobbin thread. You don't want to run out of short of bobbin thread as you sew your bias. Looks good here. I'm a little bit short here, but I still catch it. So I'm just going to leave it. And the next step will be inserting the zipper pull. Okay, we will take your flap out and do zipper pull. Okay, before you do so, you might want to flex the binding because it's still very stiff. It does take some time for it to set in. As you know, my zipper tip is not aligned. So what I will do now is I just make sure the two top here is aligned, and I will trim the zipper tape so that it's easier for me to insert the zipper pull. Likewise, I'm going to notch cut a notch at the zipper tape so that it's easier for me to line it up. Okay, we'll find the right angle. Looks okay so far. Let's see what will happen. First, both here must be aligned, but we know that it's not aligned now because I know this one is a little bit down. So I need to shift a little bit up. This should be it. Yeah, it looks much better now. Okay, so I will do this side. Okay, be sure that you're happy with this. And right now we need to clip this over so that it's easier for us to line up the back panel. So what you do is you will press the seam allowance towards the lining, away from the zipper tape. And we will baste it so that when we do the back panel assembly, it is easier. And before you baste it, you can always do a double check to make sure that it lines up with your lining, as in your back panel. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so I'm going to baste the two tight. Okay, you can trim off later. You can trim off now also. And we will take your, but before we do so, just double check your zipper. It's good. Your opening that it's not stuck. It is smooth. Okay, this is important. Take your back panel lining with the pocket. We are going to place the straight edges right side together. Okay, and we are going to baste it with a 1/8 inch. I always like to baste on the lining side. Previously, when I was sewing this sewing machine, my lining keep getting shorter and shorter every time I sew. Then I realized that I've been putting my lining down. Somehow or rather, this way of sewing made my lining string a lot. Probably sometimes for 1/4 inch. It's noticeable that I need to make up the difference. Then I try a different way and realize that by sewing the lining facing up, I don't have such issue. So sometimes do explore your sewing machine, how it reacts on different fabric base. Okay, so we already sew on this, and we are going to take your back panel. Make sure your make sure your stabilizer is already adhered to it, which we did earlier. I was lost at word. Again, right side together. Okay, you snip off the side here. so that it can reduce the bulk when we do the final assembly. Again, reminder, stabilizer. If you use a sew-in foam, you can insert it now. Then we are going to match up the exterior and the lining wrong side together. And we are going to top stitch the joint seam with the seam allowance facing towards the back panel, and continue to base the parameter with a 1/8 inch. Okay, put your hem jumper behind. And from here, we are going to continue to sew to base the parameter, and as such, I'm going to sew this with the lining facing up. Lengthen your stitch length. Sometimes the lining might be a little bit short because when we top stitch, it does stretch a little bit. It is alright, just make sure that your seam allowance will be able to cover it. Okay, this is your exterior and we are done with your exterior. There is a note on step 21. There is a measurement for you to make sure that it is correct after assembling the exterior. If you're making the Belmont Compact as a toiletry bag, there won't be a handle here, okay, as mentioned, and there will be a grab handle on this side, just like how it looks here. This is a toiletry version. The grab handle is at the back. We'll leave this aside now while we will prepare our side panel. Next step is to do the assembly of the D-ring, the side connector basically, with the webbing to the side panel exterior. This is your piece F. And on top of your webbing, you mark a 1 5/8 inch, 4.1 cm down. Okay, if you can see there's a mark here. Okay, and this is for you to place your D-ring over and you fold over, like what I did over here. Okay, make sure they are on an equal height, and we'll place the double-sided tape so that it doesn't shift when we sew the webbing to the exterior. Okay, and double check your stabilizer F2 have already adhered to the wrong side of the exterior, and we will take it out, remove the backing, center point of the webbing to the center point of the bottom edge for the side panel. Before you sew, make sure that it is equally spaced out. I'm going to sew with a 1/8 inch up across as close as possible to your D-ring your side connector, which is D-ring for me. Okay, it's as that you are using a slim footer. Then we'll sew across, down 1 inch, across again, and we're going to do a X box. And lastly, we'll go down here to secure the webbing. Make sure you have enough bobbin thread. And again, if you are particular, please use the same thread color as your webbing. And stand by your hum jumper. This is very important. If you do not have, you can use any scraper or even vinyl, layers of vinyl. That will help. Okay, my stabilizer was being stuck. Okay, I'm going to get as close as possible. So I'm going to use my hum jumper here. Okay. I lift up a needle, but the thread is still inside. The needle is still inside. It's just help to pivot the thread up. And my hum jumper here is at the back so that it can help to avoid any skip stitch. And my first stitch, I'm going to just use the hand crank to lift up to make sure that the bobbin thread is pulled up properly. Okay, I think it's all right. Okay, then from here, I will change the hum jumper to be at the front. Again, I hand crank. And make sure it's about 1 inch. I'm going to just eyeball it. It usually should cover the fold that we had earlier. So I'm just going to do one, no, I think it's in. Okay, so from here, again, I hand crank and proceed. Oh, I think I exceeded my earlier stitch hole. It's all right. If you can, try to match as much as you can. So from here, I'm just going to use this as a guide, or you can use a ruler. Okay, when closing to this, I'm putting my hum jumper behind and try to match as much as I can, or you can, to the previous stitch hole. You see, I exceeded here. I should have shortened my stitch length there. So from here, same thing. Okay, I think I'm a little bit out. Okay, it's all right. So I'm just going to be here. Again, if you are very particular with the stitches, use the same color. But for the demonstration, I'm using the contrasting color so that you can see. And you will just go from here all the way down. Not too bad, except for this part. Okay, actually we don't need so. Did I do wrongly? Not too sure, but anyway, it's all right at the side panel. I'll repeat the same here. Whatever you do on the other side, repeat the same over here. Okay, the last one I'm going to hand crank so that I know my needle will go to the previous thread. And same thing. Okay. Yeah, it's perfect now because I hand crank it. Sometimes we just have to learn. Okay. This is perfect. Just a little bit shy here and over here. But I'm happy. You can do a rivet if you want to. I'm not going to do it because since I already do a X box. If you prefer not to do a X box, okay, what you do is you measure a 3/8 inch down here from the top of the stitches, okay, and you put the rivet in. So we are done with this and we are going to assemble together with the base, which we did with the purse fit earlier. If you did not, it's fine. Just make sure that you have a piece of stabilizer already here if you are using a fusible. Okay, so we are going to place the short edge, both short edges, right side together. We will sew with a 3/8 inch. Once done, we are going to trim the corners before returning the fabric right side out. Okay, and we'll repeat on this side also. So we are going to top stitch this with the seam allowance facing towards the base. As well as here, same thing. And we are done with the side gusset exterior. So meaning the side panel plus the base form the side gusset exterior. And we are going to do our last interior assembly, which is the side panel and base lining. You should probably left these 3 pieces plus your stabilizer. So same thing, short edges, right side together. This is, wait, is this my right side? No, this is my wrong side. Okay, because it leaves water stain. So just touch it. Yeah, this one is the right side. Okay, and we are going to align right side together and sew with a 3/8 inch. We need not sew this with a bigger seam allowance because this is a bound bag. It's not a birthing bag, because for birth, if you want to do a birthing bag, your lining should be smaller so that you have a snuggle, so that your lining is more snug. Again, we snip off. We follow the same thing here with the remaining piece. My girl is back. Okay, so we trim off the seam allowance. I will take a break first because my little girl is back. Say hi. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, so same as earlier, what we did for the base exterior, you can, it depends on the machine. My machine can take it, so I can top stitch towards the base. But if you are using a domestic machine or your fabric that you use is on the thicker side, so what you do is you actually sew the lining, the seam allowance up. Okay, it can be challenging depending on your fabric use, but your mesh pocket should be all right. So if you are going to sew towards here, it will look like this. But for me, I'm just going to do the same as what I did for my base. Okay, so we are going to top stitch. That is Charlotte standing behind me. Ah, kids. Okay, Charlotte, please. Okay, make sure that these two are lined up, which should be, and let's not forget about your stabilizer. Okay, we are going to adhere the stabilizer over the lining. Oh no, sorry, the exterior, wrong side of the exterior. This is where I was saying that do not use a fusible stabilizer because of the layers. There are different components. Basically, we need to sew 3 parts with the hardware before we form a side cassette. And the last step before we go into the final assembly is to base it wrong side together with the stabilizer in between. And we're going to base the parameter with a 1/8 inch. Forgot to mention also, just double check that your length of this side cassette should be what was stated on step 24. Okay, now I'm just going to base the whole parameter with a 1/8 inch. And now we are ready for the final assembly. First, we will align right side together, okay? And before that, make sure you mark the center point. Okay, I didn't line it up nicely here. My daughter wants to say hello before she agrees to go for her lunch. Okay, go, baby. Bye. Bye. She just came back from her school. Okay, with your side panel and your main assembly, there is not much difference unless you have a directional print for your this base. Okay, you like to make sure that this is pointing up. Okay, because when we put here, usually we'll see the print facing upwards. So, assuming this is facing upwards, we will align the center point. Oops, sorry. I thought I did the center point. Apparently, I have not. Okay, so we will need to unzip first so that it's easier. Then we will line up to make sure we get the center point, which should be the center point of your grab handle. I was saving my fabric, as you can see, a little bit frayed because I cut very near to the selvage. I just have enough spare from it. Okay. So the center point has already been cut. Okay, so we will line up. Unzip your flap first, flap zipper, so that it will be easier at the later stage. place a few stitches here just to secure. I strongly encourage you to baste it first before you sew, because the last stitches would be your bias tape, which is at 1/4 inch. Okay, just a tack stitch here. Same, we will do the same on the other side. And from here, we will line up the center point of the base exterior to the back panel or the front panel. It's the same for either side. This side will be easier because the back panel, you only have this mesh fabric here, okay? Whereas for the front, it's thicker because we have a zipper pocket and the slip pocket lining. So as mentioned earlier, if your bulk test it wasn't good for the layers, maybe you can consider replacing the slip pocket with mesh fabric. Okay, as this side is done on one side, and we are going to do the same on the other side. The measurement is accurate in a way you do not need to snip into any edges. However, if you really need to, you will need to adjust and see. It depends whether you're shorter on the side gusset or you're longer on the main exterior. Because if you are longer on the main exterior, then you might need to snip into the side gusset and vice versa. My camera was off without me realizing. The method of sewing is the same as what's shown here. I like to sew from the top of one side panel to the opposite side panel, with the side panel mesh pocket or slip pocket facing down. There's no right or wrong way, just whatever works best for you. This is the method that I prefer. Then we will continue to clip like what we did on the back panel. If you have done the grab handle for the toiletry bag, no, this is the front. The back panel here will be slightly thicker because since the grab handle is at the back panel. Yeah, this is how it looks, and it fits well with no obvious gap or excessive fabric. So we will repeat the same thing again as what we did. Check that you are happy with the stitches. You can turn the back right side up to double check. However, I will not do it now. I will continue to baste the other side before turning the back right side out. Now I will proceed to baste the other side. By breaking up the side gusset into sections, you will make the final assembly easier, especially this compact version is smaller. Earlier, as you noticed when I sew, my mesh doesn't give me any problem because mine is not a perforated mesh. If you do have mesh like this, that is perforated holes, the regular mesh, you might have some issue sewing because sometimes your thread cutter or your thread holder might hook onto the mesh. So what you can do is suggested by one of our tester, cover this with a painter stick, okay, so that it doesn't hook on it. It was suggested by Milena Hunt from the UK. She was advised by her sewing machine technician, which is a very useful tips for us to have it. Basically, you can use your painter stick to cover over your thread needle, thread holder, what do you call it, or thread cutter. Okay, we are done. Let's take it out and see how is it. Always turn out and take a look before we go for the final binding. And if your fabric, or rather if your bed is hard to turn, okay, because of the material you use, you might want to use a hairdryer to soften the fabric. I won't be doing it since I'm here. I'll just try to buff it, to bind it. Let me see here. Did I cover? I did. But maybe I'll go back and just double check again on this side because it's holding together, but you just want to be sure, especially we are binding now. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm going to take a break and come back and we'll bind the whole thing. Before that, I will fix this. Is it this part? Yeah, as you can see, I think it's holding up, but just barely only. So I'm just going in and just make sure I base it properly first before I go for the binding. Love it. Okay, I fixed the side already. And for this, I'm going to use a 1-inch bias tape because the layers are thicker. Please do not be like me to save on fabric and cut near to the selvage. The whole thing keep running. 1-inch webbing. So I'm going to do the same as what I did earlier. So I'm going to just reuse a clip and going to sew with a 1/4 inch. This is what I meant by the loop. Okay, this is where I was saying just now. So if my disc is perforated and you have a thread holder, previously I do have, but I took it out, okay, then it tend to hook onto the mesh fabric. So what you can do is you can use a painter stick over the thread holder. Do not really over stabilize this bag because it's small. Unless you are experienced sewist, then it's better to go for a lighter weight stabilizer. I'm using a heavy weight now. I know it's out of suddenly out of the blue I was saying that. Okay, you will cut, then fold 3/8 inch, at least a 3/8 inch. Normally I'll do like a quarter, no, sorry, a 3/4. And we are done. Except that I need to fix that. Okay, I didn't manage to get the finishing nicely, but trust me, it's okay. Nobody really will go and take a look. Everything looks good. I will do this. And do I need to? Maybe I just need to pull it over. Let me check. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to stitch over because nobody will really, trust me, nobody will really open up and go and take a look. Only you probably know. Okay, let's turn the back and we'll see the final result. Okay, if you have a hairdryer on hand, it is good for you to go and dry it, soften the fabric. Because why? After we put the bias tape, it will be even probably tougher because it add the bone to the structure. I hope that makes sense. Thank you for sticking with me to make this Belmont Compact. There's another video tutorial made by Jen. Go and take a look as well. And we also have another bigger version of this that is a handbag size. I hope I do have time to make that at the point of video taking for this, because I will be busy doing the supplies and the next pattern. Otherwise, I'm sure Jen is going to record that. So please go over and give her a thumbs up also. Until the next time, happy sewing. Bye.